Thanks for staying with us. Lots of feedback coming our way on 2242 and the hashtag NEWSNIGHT. Keep sending them in and I'll be reading your questions to my panelists. We still have Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, who's the MP Kitui Central, also a member of the Budget Committee, and the former chair, immediate former chair of that committee, Kimani Ichung'wah, MP Kikuyu. I saw him being called Budget Committee Chair Emeritus. Both of them here with us in studio, even as we seek to understand really what is happening around and regarding Kenya's debt. But first things first, various leaders have spoken about Kenya's debt over the years. President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President William Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga. Here's a snippet of some of their comments regarding debt over the years.
Any borrowing is borrowing that is measured, that we know what it is going to do, and that we have the capacity to pay, and that it is in the interest of the country. We are a responsible and prudent government. That is why you can witness a working standard gauge railway. You can witness roads everywhere in the country. There is a debt crisis in Kenya. Even our development partners are concerned about the debt crisis in Kenya. It is only those who do not understand this country that they can say they cannot see the debt crisis in the Republic of Kenya.
Jubilee is syndicating $800 million to international bank loans, not for development, but to plug the holes that their looting has created. Kenya has finally made it to the corruption super league, where we are playing with long-tested giants who are destined for collapse, and what this means to us as a country.
What we want is to ensure that we have, whatever, if you're borrowing, you borrow at acceptable terms, terms which are not punitive to our people. In other words, low interest and also longer periods of repayment. We will be able to manage the debt properly in our country. No country lives without debts. The richest of the countries, the United States, has debt. So we will continue to see how we can manage the debt portfolio and move forward so that our country can develop rapidly.
Lakini lazima tutafute pesa kwa sababu zetu hazitoshi, ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba the needs of the people are also met, but we must borrow, which I agree, in a manner that we are sure we can actually service the debt that we incur. And I am positive that if we focus ourselves on opening up this country through infrastructure projects like we are doing, we will not only expand the GDP of this country, we will not only expand the opportunity, kwa sababu barabara ikifika hapa Sekuru, sio ni kumaanisha hii town yote sasa itafunguka na watu wataanza kufanya mabiashara. Sio ni kumaanisha ya kwamba uchumi utapanuka, na uchumi wa Sekuru ukipanuka, si uchumi wa Kenya pia umepanuka. So we must just be cautious and prudent that we are not borrowing to consume, but we are borrowing to grow.
President Uhuru Kenyatta there speaking back in 2018. You've heard from ODM leader Raila Odinga and, of course, Deputy President William Ruto as well. Dr. Mulu, let me allow you to immediately jump in on the back of some of those comments, some of them variedly different from what they were saying 3-4 years ago and what they are saying today.
Yeah, thank you, Aiga. Before I comment on what the leaders are saying, let me just weigh on the matter where Honorable Kimani was discussing, the matter of the ceiling, the public debt ceiling of 9 trillion. Where as a committee we had recommended that we do it at 7.5 trillion. The other reason why as a parliament we did accept is because the executive came out clear that they wanted to redeem commercial loans and then do more of concessional loans. That I doubt whether it happened. And I think these are the issues. And to me,
you doubt whether it happened, or you know you sit in the budget committee, you're best placed to tell us.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Because we are getting the data. But you know, Waiga, what is happening? Listen to the leaders. And this is why at times I wish we had leaders who believe in integrity. High levels of integrity. Because you know, Waiga, looking at some of the clips, you could see some of the leaders 3 years ago were speaking different language from what they are speaking today. That's what I call double speak. And to me, if you are a leader, you need to be very consistent the way you talk. And the issue is, the big question, which I think Kenyans are not asking, and which I wish we are all asking so that we get the data, is not even how much you have borrowed. It is, where has this loan been applied? Waiga, you'll be surprised if you are to map the projects which Kenyans have funded using this public debt. You'll be surprised by the level of skewness. They are very skewed, and the unfortunate bit is all Kenyans will be paying, irrespective of where you live. You pay your taxes, and for now, we are almost eating 70% of our GDP, meaning every money we collect, 70 shillings go to loan servicing, that go for the other things. So to me, I think what we should be asking ourselves as Kenyans is, why should I pay for public debt and get my tax applied to that when the programs which were even implemented don't appear anywhere in some of the areas in this country? The map of Kenya, if you map the projects, you will see a big region. And it's obvious, Waiga, we need to be very open on this because we are talking to Kenyans. My colleague here, Kimani Ichung'wah, will tell you, if we are to map those projects, almost 70% will be found in Jubilee strongholds. But the whole country will be paying that debt.
Is that true, Kimani?
The other important point, before I go there, is what we call the intergenerational balancing. One of the principles of public finance, the basic principle, is that even as you borrow, please be considerate of future generations so that you don't overburden them. So in technical terms, we say intergenerational equity, so that when you borrow today, you should apply the loan in a way that in 10 years to come, the loan will be paying itself so that the future generations, you don't overburden them with paying loans. And that principle is one of the principles we have never adhered to as a country. We are getting loans, we hardly care about who will pay them in 30 years to come. Our grandchildren, we've already auctioned their life in terms of debt, they're already tied there. And I think really this to me is a debate we should be engaging. This is a national conversation as a country. We need to be engaging in, so that even the next government which is going to come, because Waiga will like it or not, even the next government will continue borrowing. Don't be cheated by anybody that we would borrow. Up to a level, we will be able to grow our revenue so that we can meet our expenditure projections. So we have only two ways. Either we reduce our expenditure or we grow our revenue. The third option, which is not likely, is cost saving, where you look at the whole budget and say, these areas we could save, please let's gauge austerity measures so that we save. And once you save, then you can have some of those resources pushed to reduce the budget deficit. But our whole story of fiscal consolidation is a theory, Waiga. We are no longer implementing it.
Dr. Mulu, for Kenyans who does tonight, why are you still sitting in that committee 9 years on if you feel so powerless?
The thing is,
what do you respond to them?
The thing, what I will tell you, Waiga, is...
Why haven't you resigned?
As a professional, I can resign from the committee, yes, but that committee will still be there in Parliament, and it will still push things through. I think what you should be checking, Waiga, is... But
what is tied to that committee will no longer be tied to you. For now, you are held responsible like every member of that committee.
By the way, the committee works on behalf of the main Parliament, the whole Parliament. That's why my chair here would present a report to Parliament. And unless that report is approved by Parliament in the plenary, it is not a report at all. So you can only implement when the Speaker says, those who are for yes, say yes, those who are for no, say no. And when you don't agree, you go for division. That's where the numbers count. So I'm telling you, my chair will bear me witness that we would try our best. And the best way, Waiga, I wish it was possible, you got the answered and looked at all the time we have been discussing public debt, who has been saying what. You, just as you did with the Honorable Ichung'wah when we started, you had a clip showing what he said and a clip saying what we said. I wish you got the answer and looked at the history of each one of us and what they have been saying. Because what we say to us is, when you go to the Parliament, you document, because the answer captures everything you say. You make sure that what you say goes there permanently. So future generation can see which members of Parliament were saying, let's push this thing hard, which members were saying, this thing is not good for the country. And that's the thing we are discussing, Waiga.
Some would ask this evening, awards enough. Kimani Ichung'wah, same question to you. This one coming in from Ronald Ngacha. Please ask Kimani Ichung'wah, did he resign from the budget committee when he realized the committee was under state capture, or he waited until he was voted out?
I'll tell you, in 2019, they tried to remove me. They did. They were unable, unsuccessful.
No, you're not answering his question.
I am coming.
You're coming to it, okay?
Yeah. I continue to tell them the truth as it is. In April of 2020, just after COVID hit this country, the supplementary estimate, the annual estimates were tabled before the House. I led my committee, and my colleague here will bear me witness, in rejecting those annual estimates. And I am on record. It's only that your researcher didn't do some very good work today. That's why even the clips they got clips. I'm talking about other issues, purportedly to be about public debt. And I said on the floor of Parliament, it is on Hansard. If you Google, you'll find it, that I shall no longer be an apologist for a government that is not delivering on its mandate and on the promises it made to the Kenyan people. And I spoke at length that day. You can go back to your books and you'll be able to see what I say. What I said then, and of course by then I knew they were removing me. And I did not resign. They rearranged the committees after they were unable to get members of the committee who knew what I stand for, who stood with me, despite some being offered very, very nice things, to just sign a paper to remove me as chair of the committee. But let me go back to the clips that you played of our good leaders, the former Prime Minister, the Deputy President, President Uhuru Kenyatta. And I want to agree largely with what President Uhuru Kenyatta is saying there, that we borrow, and the Deputy President says the same thing, borrow responsibly. President Kenyatta says it is okay to borrow, but we, of course, must make sure, and he's speaking in Sekuru, you get a road that will improve the people's lives here and bring more economic activities to this region, blah, 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 and grow the economy and all that. Very nice and good. The president is telling us borrow, but don't borrow to consume. Yes, we have borrowed. Have we borrowed to consume? My colleague here will bear me witness that, yes, we are borrowing to consume. Who is still in charge of this country? President Uhuru Kenyatta. We are borrowing to pay salaries. We are borrowing to pay debt. We are borrowing from Peter to pay Tom. This last month in January, if you call the CS National Treasury here, he will tell you how they have struggled to raise cash flow to repay debt. And they have borrowed from the domestic market. Who is the net beneficiary when you borrow? Right across Parliament next to Sharia House and around Parliament, we had pavements that were okay. We are removing them to Cabro, use Cabro paving, because the net effect, there is a net beneficiary of this state capture. Are we borrowing to consume? He will tell you today what is before the budget and equipment, 1.2 billion shillings in my county in Kiambu. We can comfortably equip our hospitals if we give them more money. The fallacy and the lie is that we were told with BBI we must change the constitution to be able to give you 35% of your shareable revenue, and we maintained, we opposed BBI on that basis that we do not need to change a comma in the constitution to be able to give more monies to the counties. We are telling you today through our proposals in BPS, where we change policy on what we will budget for, that we want policy now to move our shareable revenue from the 17% currently to 35% to give our counties 495 billion. And we are saying, move this money from the Ministry of Health, which largely should be dealing with policy issues at the national level, move money from the Ministry of Agriculture in certain sectors where you should be dealing with policy issues, and take that money to the counties to be able to implement those projects. Let me come to the Deputy President. 2018, 2022. 2018 to 2022. 2018, the Deputy President tells you that, yes, we are a government that is borrowing responsibly. Bilateral loans. You ask me that, the bilateral loans that you were then coerced to raise the debt ceiling to retire. Tell me about we were not coerced. Okay, you agreed to. You give people the benefit of doubt. Okay. And you assume people are working in good faith. And we worked in good faith with the National Treasury and the Executive. And why I told you that someone was asking you when we were on break whether it's executive or state capture. Yes, the state capture of the state by certain people that are well known in this country. That is why you'll see even today, we are being asked to give 26, 50 billion shillings to Kenya Airways to rescue a company. And we are telling you, instead of giving 50 billion shillings to Kenya Airways, why don't we give the 50 billion shillings to Waihiga, Mulu, Kimani, Kamau, Otieno, Awino, so that you're able to grow your businesses, become taxpayers, and offer a solution to part of the public debt problem we have. Because we'll be able to expand our tax base, we'll be able to collect more taxes, we'll be able to balance our revenue against our expenses. expenditure.
The
Deputy President tells you in 2018,
yes.
you must borrow responsibly. The Deputy President speaks as a principal assistant to the Chief Executive of the country, who is the President. And he does so again in good faith, like me and Makali Mulu acted in good faith in 2018, that indeed when we open up this debt ceiling to 9 trillion shillings, or the 7.5 that we proposed, that government would act in good faith and move from what was commercial debt to more of concessionary loans. Today, the 9 trillion or 11.7 trillion shillings we are talking about, 4 trillion shillings Wahiga, is money that has been borrowed, 3.989 or 87, I think, is money borrowed from the domestic market. The largest proportion of that is money borrowed from banks. You need to ask yourself, who are the bank owners? And you will have your answer to the question of state capture that I keep mentioning here. And I'll keep repeating it because until and unless we deal with this elephant in the room, we will say all manner of things. We will support our president and love him as much as we want to love him. But until we deal with that problem, the deputy president will say we are borrowing responsibly because he wants to support his boss and the chief executive, because in good faith he believes his boss is acting in the best interest of the country.
Why should...
Whether you ask me today, yes, if you ask me whether that we have acted in the best interest of the country or state capture has taken over the country, I'll tell you, looking at you straight in the eye, state capture took over the running of the affairs of this country a long time ago. Unfortunately, as Makali
and you've made your point on that.
We are all in it, and unless we deal with it and talk about it, it will not end.
So why should Kenyans give any of our sitting parliamentarians another go, another 5 years in the August election? Because you're saying here today that, listen,
allow me, Makali,
let me finish my question.
Just a minute, because there's something very important I've forgotten. You asked him why he has not resigned from the budget committee. I'll tell you this, and I'm not here to speak for him, he can speak for himself. If you ask me today if Makali Mulu should resign from the budget and appropriations committee, I will give you an emphatic no. If you ask me whether John Buddy should leave the Budget and Appropriations Committee, I would tell you an emphatic no. Because they are men and women I have worked with in that committee, and I know the value and substance that they bring into that committee.
Okay.
If you ask me, I will tell you, remove Kanini Kega from that committee like yesterday. He has no idea.
The question was
what budgeting is.
The question, no, he's not here. The question was...
I wish you had called him here, because anyway, thank you, never call him. He had nothing.
Imani Shungwa, have you asked you, why did you not resign? When you why did I not resign?
Yes. For the same reason, I would not advise Makali Mulu to resign.
Which is why?
If you leave that committee without the brains and the expertise and knowledge that Makali Mulu brings into that committee, leave that committee to the likes of Wangwe and Kanini Kega and others.
Well, it doesn't matter.
We're in a hole. I did not resign.
Kenyans are still in a hole today.
I did not resign because I had to be there to tell the powers that be the truth as it is. I told them until they removed me.
Okay,
and I'll continue telling them. Even
let me allow Dr. Mulu now some...
The rallies and everywhere.
Dr. Mulu, I hope you had more time to speak when he was chair. Go ahead.
Yeah, as I said, Honorable Kimani Chungwa...
I hope that's not what you meant by pushing things down.
Yeah, when it gets to politics, you can talk for the whole day. But the thing is, a good thing we are discussing serious matters and matters economy. And matters economy more is the issues of data. So what I wanted to say is this. The issue of Kenya getting more money to the counties is a very good idea, Waiga. And we all support it because Kenyans have said that devolution is the best thing which happened to this country. So we would wish to see more money being pushed to the counties. The only thing I would want to tell Kenyans is, I think when my colleague here, Kimani Chungwa, my former chairman, when he talks about it, and he's a man pushing that, then I don't think him and this alliance have any more authority to talk about increasing money to counties. Because they oppose the BBI. And what the BBI was saying was to make this issue of money to the counties not an issue of just by where you decide. We wanted to put it in law so that every year the money will go there, whether you have collected or you have not collected. You can borrow, but the counties will get their share. Now here he is strong with the BPS, and he understands, he knows very well, to get those amendments through the budget committee to come to the floor of the House. It's like moving Mount Kenya from where it is now to the coast. Procedurally, it would work. So he's just playing politics with Kenyans. He's just playing politics with Kenyans because the thing is, it is a very good idea to push money to the counties, and each one would want to support it. But Waiga, the truth of the matter is, pushing more money to the counties means more borrowing. We are talking about public debt. Public debt is increasing, and you are telling us, give more money to the counties, borrow more. The second point, Waiga, for your information, there is a committee called IBEC. That's the committee which decides how much will go to the counties. The chair of IBEC is none other than the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. They did their own sessions, they sat, and they agreed this year they will be pushing 370 billion to the counties. Then Kimani comes here with this amendment to push to 495. When his party leader is the one who chaired that committee, can he tell us as Kenyans what has changed? And that's why I'm saying we need to be honest with Kenyans. Because Kenyans are very smart, Waiga. They are no longer the Kenyans we used to lead in the 70s. They are very smart Kenyans who would look at issues and say, yeah, we are being taken for a ride. Yeah, we are being taught the truth. I
gave you time, Kimani. Let him finish.
So you see, that's what we are saying, Waiga. And to me, as an economist, I've looked at all these manifestos being pushed around. I've looked at all these promises being pushed around. And I can tell you for sure, most of those promises are not at all going to be funded. They have no funding framework.
I have the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the latest one.
Yes.
Can we find 35% to send to counties if we can change the law with the numbers that you've looked at?
Now, what will happen, let me tell you, Waiga, if you look at the Constitution, it says that whatever amount is given to the counties through the Division of Revenue law, if the national government does not collect enough money, what will happen is the share of the national government which will be reduced. So the county government share will always remain. So the government can borrow whatever they want, but the share of the county government will remain. That's why we were saying, when you put it in law, the government will do their mathematics. The first allocation after the consolidated fund services, which is debt and
paying debt, yes.
The first allocation, county government, their share of that 5. Then the government can survive with whatever. That will push the government to even collect more revenue. Because it says, where you fall short of revenue collection, it is the national government which suffers, not the county. And that's why I'm saying my friend here is not being honest together with this alliance. And that's why we are saying the only alliance which is genuine is One Kenya Alliance, where we have people who can give us a funded budget.
Go ahead, before we take SMSs and...
You know, Oiga is interesting because my brother Makali here is saying the only people who are honest is One Kenya Alliance because they have no plans. They have nothing they are selling to Kenyans other than a 24-hour economy. But let me get back to the debate about BBI and the 35%. If you ask, and maybe if I ask Honorable Makali Mulu here, if we were saying with BBI we were able to send 35% to the counties, all we are doing is telling them, come on, let us hasten your dream of sending 35% to the counties, because if you truly support devolution, and I'm saying, and Makali knows I am not a pedestrian out there who will just throw up proposals without backing them up with data, facts, and figures. I have made a proposal to the National Assembly to amend from 370 billion shillings to 495. That will be reflective of that 35%. I have reduced the budget ceiling by that 125 of what is going to the national government. The same thing Honorable Makali Mulu is saying, that if you're to give 35%, the national government must cut its budget. And that's what we are saying. And I told you, specifically go to the ministries whose functions are largely devolved, like the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Health. But the reason why they will not, that's why he's telling you it's like climbing, I think, Mount Kenya or something. It's like somebody trying to climb Mount Kenya when after failing 5 times, you know. Why it is so difficult, and he agrees with me, it may be difficult. And I am not saying I will not fail to push through that proposal because it is difficult. I know it is difficult because, as he says, during the political parties debate, he gave you a perfect example. Members of parliament who knew this law is bad for the country, is even bad for me as a member of parliament, were passing it. And they were there voting for it like voting machines and saying, we know it's bad, but because the party leader said, let's just do it. It is the same thing we are saying. If only the executive capture of parliament would cease. But it is good at this time in the run-up to an election, we be able to bring these proposals because they told us with BBI it was possible. So we ask them, why then is it not possible today? BBI, you are only amending the law to actualize what we are telling you, that you do not need to amend even a comma in the Constitution. It is possible. So, therefore, the proposals we have, Wahiga, are not what I have had our competitors say, that they are populist, that they are not realizable. They are realizable. If you ask me, I told you, I gave you those two examples of BBI and the 35%. I gave you the example of funding Kenya Airways at the expense of probably funding
you made your
5 million or 10 million hustler businesses that would generate incomes and taxes, incomes for Kenyans who are crying out today and telling you to reduce the cost of living and food prices for them. We are telling you, inject 5 billion shillings towards the fertilizer subsidy program. I heard our competitor today in Taita Taveta talking about smart agriculture. What is smart agriculture? It's like Uhuru Kenyatta's promise for laptops. I don't know what tablets for students.
Which you cheered on as a member of the party?
I cheered him on because I believed he was acting in the best interest of the country. I am telling you,
I'm going to cut you off because I need to take a break.
I do not believe today Uhuru Kenyatta is acting in the best interest of the country.
Okay.
That I can say.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break, Imani Shungwa. We come back. We take your feedback on this particular discussion. It's getting heated here in studio. Let's take that break. We'll be right back. And we'll pick up your tweets and your SMS. 2242 is the SMS line. And the hashtag is Newsnight. We'll be right back.